What's up, gamers? Papa Jumpluff here. Today we're going to be going over a Slowking Forretress deck. The reason being is a lot of people didn't really think Slowking was going to be usable in the format, and I wanted to come up with a deck list that could actually utilize Slowking. So as we know in this format, we're using the Japanese errata of the card, which means Slowking's Mind Games ability only works when it's in the active slot. So I believe the best way to go about doing that is using a Pokemon like Forretress with Rapid Spin that'll force it into the active slot, and then running a bunch of ways to get it back out of the active slot so that Forretress can, move forward again and then constantly swap between the two, Slowking into Forretress, into Slowking, into Forretress. So without further ado, here it is. We've got the 3 Slowking, which are obviously accompanied with 3 Slowpokes. I chose the Fossil Slowpoke for this one. I don't think it matters in a big way which ones you choose. Next up, we've got 4 Pineco. I've got the 3 Neo Destiny ones, 1 Neo Discovery one. There's not actually a reason for it. It's purely because this is what I could find in a short amount of time. So we've got the 4 Pineco, and then I've got 4 Forretress with the Pokemon Power Spikes. So anytime your opponent's Pokemon switches into the active slot during their turn, for each copy of Forretress you have, whether it's in the active or whether it's on the bench, Spikes will deal 10 damage to their new active Pokemon. The other attack is Rapid Spin, which does 30, and then it forces you and your opponent to switch your active Pokemon. So really interesting Pokemon conceptually, and then it's like a incremental advantage here because of the spikes damage. So you're always getting the spikes damage whenever your opponent switches to a new active, and then not only that, but accompanying with Slowking, you're putting more pressure on your opponent by making sure that only half of their trainer cards statistically ever resolve. So I think that's really interesting. The reason I didn't go over Slowpoke or Slowking's attacks is because we're not attacking with them in this deck. This is strictly a Forretress attacking deck. So yeah, anyway, moving on, I've got 2 copies of the Black Star Promo Eevee, and the reason for that is so that we could run the Aquapolis Espeon here. And it's really just for warp bouncing. So we're going to be bouncing the warp energy back to our hand with Espeon, attaching the warp energy to Slowking to pull Slowking back out of our active slot to promote the Forretress again, and then rinse repeat. So that's a huge part of our combo here, and Eevee pretty much evolves itself. Couldn't ask for a better way to start an Evolution deck. And then, of course, because it's WotC-20, we're going to run the 4 Cleffa. No need for an explanation here. It's just what you do. Next up, the supporters in the deck. I'm running 3 copies of Copycat. You want to make sure that you're able to hit all of your lines in this deck and maximize your Forretress count while also making sure that you have, access to 1 Eevee Espeon and at least 1 Slowking, so you can do what the deck is supposed to do. After that, I've got 2 copies of Pokemon Fan Club. So obviously this helps generate your bench lines. Copycat will help you find your stage 1s. And moving on from there, I have 2 copies of Professor Elm. We're running a ton of hand refresh in this deck. Just we want to make sure that we're consistently finding those lines. Then I've got 4 copies of Gust of Wind. Gust of Wind is really effective when you want to hit a specific Pokemon over and over again with Forretress. And then, obviously you're pushing it back to the back line. Maybe your opponent doesn't promote that Pokemon, so you could pull it back up with Gust of Wind, deal another 30, move back to Slowking. Helps you maintain that tempo. Then I've got 3 copies of Trader. So if you can't find the stage 1 that you're looking for off of your many hand refreshers, you can easily find a Trader and, hopefully a spare Cleffa or something. You just shuffle the Cleffa back into your deck, grab the stage 1 that you're looking for, and go to town. Next is 2 copies of Computer Search. Just a great all-around searcher. I've got an item finder. And the main purpose of the item finder is you may want to be reusing some of the tools that we have in this deck. So the tools I chose is one Balloon Berry, which grants us a free switch. So you would attach this to a Slowking. Then you would be able to discard the Balloon Berry instead of discarding energy cards to retreat it. Notably, this does not get around if your opponent puts a special condition on the Slowking, like Confusion. This doesn't automatically retreat it. It just reduces, or it just fulfills the cost of the energy cards. So, yeah, you're still manually retreating the Slowking in that case. And then I also have 2 copies of Goldberry because we're a metal deck. Metal deck does really well with Goldberry. You have a lot of defense, and it helps you just get the most out of your numbers in this deck. And it can also be used on Slowking to keep it alive if your opponent has been successfully hitting the Slowking over and over again. This will preserve the Slowking. All right. Then finally, we are heading into the energies. I needed to maximize on the number of warp energy. We want to make sure that we are consistently hitting this with Espeon so that we can always have a way to get our Slowking out of the active slot. Next is 4 copies of Metal Energy. For the reason that, we're playing a Forretress deck, we want to make sure that we are hitting our requirements in order to use Rapid Spin. And to double down on that, we're also going to run 4 copies of Rainbow Energy. So this can be used for both Metal and for Psychic. Sometimes it is correct to attack with Espeon. Not very often, but sometimes you actually do want to do that. And Espeon will help you move these around as needed. If you have a Forretress that you're promoting more often, you might want to put more metals on it rather than having warps because you get the added defense benefit. And setting those aside, we now have 4 copies of Double Colorless Energy. No explanation needed here. It's the Forretress is for Rapid Spin is Metal, Colorless, Colorless. So super easy, 2 attaches, build your own Forretress. And last but not least, I have 2 copies of Cyclone Energy. Just another way to manipulate your opponent's active Pokemon. If they are constantly promoting a baby Pokemon, it might be worth your while to attach a Cyclone Energy to knock the baby Pokemon out of the active slot so that you can hit something a bit more meaningful with Forretress. And that's going to do it for today. I hope you found this enjoyable. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and, make sure that you show up regularly for all your favorite WotC-20 updates. We'll catch you next time.